All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. I am suspending Robert's Rules of Order, so the meeting is in compliance with village ordinance. Roll call, please.
Trustee Zander.
Here.
President Langfeld.
Here.
Trustee Sorensen. Here. Trustee Golson.
Here.
All right, let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I guess we got two flags here.
That one. Big one.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board on any issue not on the current agenda. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the village board encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. All right.
Okay, right now everyone is unmuted. I do not have any forms for public comment. I did receive a email earlier in the day in regards to a question for the Park Elementary addition, and that's in regards to solar. I can bring that up at that time. Do we have anyone on the line that has public comment?
All right. Do you have a public comment on anything not on the agenda? Okay, very good.
I'm here for Park Elementary School.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Upon request of any trustee, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration under general business. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Do I have a sec? Oh,
Yeah, actually, I want to take off 4, 5, and 6, just to talk about them.
all right, done. Anything else want to take off? So I have a motion that would be not including 4, 5, and 6. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right. Report of village officers, village president. Just a couple things. One, when I send that email out, I'm just, like I did on Friday, I'm just trying to keep everybody informed on what's happening in the village the best I can. I don't feel comfortable in responding back if you respond to that, because I'm worried about walking quorum. So that is just information. I'm not being rude or anything, but if I don't respond to your email, it's because I'm limited to how many people I can respond to, plus I don't have control if that gets forward on and everything. So it's more of a thing to keep everybody informed. That's the purpose of it. So that's that. The other thing, no emergency declarations. Items have been moved since we met a week ago, so we're moving right along. But it's potentially what's going to happen tomorrow when they come out with the new rules of stay at home and closing businesses. We're hearing that villages will have some opportunity to have some say in that. What that is, I don't know. If it's a big list, we'll try to call another board meeting if need be. Otherwise, we'll just move forward with it. We'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen in the next, and that'll be until our next meeting in April. I'll keep you informed on every time something happens. All right, so everybody should know. I think that. The other thing is, I'm working on 2 ordinances. One is on how we meet, so that's with Bill, Kevin, and I. Again, we're just going to get something to where we think it's a good draft, and then we'll send it through the system. It's the same thing, I'm working on one that is needed for fire and EMS for their volunteer funds. We're in violation of state statute right now by not having that. So I'm drafting one and I'll be bringing it to fire and to the EMS boards, send it to you guys eventually, and then we'll vote on it. But just so you know, I'm trying to take some of the workload away from Bill and other village staff to take these smaller things on, so they have more time to work on those major incidents. There were some questions on the email that I sent on the loss of water. We do not know where the water loss is. We know it's not from leaks. We have tested all our pipes and there are no leaks that would justify that kind of losses. It's probably in, we're hoping, well, we're not hoping, it's most likely in the meters. Either the meter on the wells are saying that we're pumping more than what we are, or the meters that are in people's homes are not recording 100% of what they're using. So we got to figure that out. As you see, that's a huge amount. So that's a priority for Jerry and his people. I know they've been working on it for at least a couple months, I think, trying to eliminate some of the other things. So we'll keep you abreast when we figure that out. All right. That is all I have for my report. The village vice president isn't here. We'll turn it over to the village administrator, Bill.
Okay, so I do have a rather long list here, because there's information flowing consistently in and out in regards to the coronavirus. And so I'll just go down my list here, and then feel free to stop me if you would like more explanation. In regards to voting, the online registration through My Vote Wisconsin has been extended through March 30th, so midnight March 30th. And that's because of a lawsuit that was filed. We received an update that the UW Health clinics are consolidating their services and clinics, and so the Cross Plains Clinic will be closed if it's not already. The state of Wisconsin has started to receive their first shipments from the strategic stockpiles, and they are prioritizing that personal protection equipment to direct care services. Right now, the village, we are exploring mutual aid for public facility employees and manpower. We reached out to a number of communities similar to size that we are, in hopes that we can get something worked out. And as far as elections and election day, my understanding is that there have been discussions on moving election day, but there hasn't been anything done at this point. So we are continuing to prepare as if that is election day. So we're looking at curbside voting. We're looking at how many people we have to work that day. We're looking at options to bring in more help if necessary.
How about absentee? How are we doing on that?
Yep, absentee voting is still open. So early voting and mail absentee voting is open. So we continue to process that. We do continue to have a high number, and we expect to have more once My Vote Wisconsin gets back online with their online registration. So they had because they closed down, they had to revamp up to.
Do you have any idea how many we have in numbers wise right now?
We have about 600.
Ooh, so we're up to about 25% at least then.
Yeah, we are up to what we expected for absentee voting on a regular year. So we get approximately 700 ballots.
Oh, we do.
Absentee voting, and so our expectation, I think at the general election, the last general election, we had about 2,200-ish voters, and so we'll see what the next couple of days brings us. I know that a lot of municipalities have gone to in-person voting by appointment, where ringing a buzzer, and we'll see what you know,
Okay.
tomorrow brings, and we'll have to adjust for that. We currently have staff working on absentee ballots and envelopes, and that's all they're doing all day. So we continue to get about 60 to 80 a day, so they're still coming in.
Lori, did you have another question? Or?
No, that was
Okay,
it.
thanks.
So there was some guidance from FEMA in regards to eligible items to be reimbursed. There's a 2-page memo about it. You know, as we read through it, some of the items that impact us directly are disinfection of eligible public facilities, potentially communications of general health and safety, and then the big one is reimbursement for local government force account overtime costs. And so I've instructed for staff to continue to keep track of their costs related to the pandemic, and we'll continue to track that as we go. One good thing is that because it was so soon to the last disaster in 2018, we're still in the system, so we don't have to go through some of the red tape that you need to go through to get signed up with them and get assigned a person to work with. You may have heard that the federal legislature had passed the Families First Coronavirus Response Act that has to do with sick and emergency leave. It does list a number of items or requirements in regards to who could potentially file. Those involve people that are quarantined, 2, have been advised by healthcare to self-quarantine, 3, if they are experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking medical diagnosis, 4, caring for an individual who is the subject of quarantine or isolation, 5, caring for a child which their school or place of care has been closed due to the pandemic, or any other symptoms specified by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The big thing about this is that the way that the federal government intends to reimburse employers is through tax credits. And currently, right now, it does not include governments, so local governments, and so we've been left out of that reimbursement. We're working with the league, working with to contact our federal representatives to try to get us on that list for the second round that's going to come out. So a heads up there. Although we're mandated to oblige by it, we are currently not on the list to be reimbursed. Earlier today, Governor Evers had announced that they will be coming out with orders tomorrow for a safe at home declaration. It's close to a shelter at home. We'll wait to see what more we get from that or what the directions are. There are a lot of questions about what is essential and what is not essential. But of course, we'll have to adjust our business according to that declaration. So more to come on that. And then in other news, not coronavirus, the multi-local supplement grant through the DOT, we had submitted 2 applications for the multi-use trail on Highway County KP. We did one where we submitted ourselves as a village, and then we did a joint with Dane County, and unfortunately we did not get either of our applications accepted, so we did not receive a grant for that. I know that Middleton received one, the town of Cross Plains received one for Airport Road, and then Dane County got another one in a different part of the county. We also submitted an application for some technical assistance in planning for a sustainability plan. That's through the American Planners Association, and we'll see what happens there. Nationwide, they are will be accepting 3 applications for that. And that's where they would fly in, or we would fly in and work with them, with professionals from all over the nation to provide green planning. The U.S. Census has postcards and letters out currently to residents, so it's that time of year. I responded to the census myself, and it took me 5-10 minutes to complete it.
Can we put something on our website and send something out to all our serve lists to ask people to fill that out?
And then related to that, I did attend a local redistricting workshop with Dane County and at the UW to talk about redrawing the maps after the survey, so that I'll continue to participate in that. Related to one of the items that Trustee Brosius had pulled out, the consent agenda, I did receive an email earlier today stating that Trout Days is now canceled. The public hearing for creek crossing at St. Francis is now scheduled to April 9th in this room at 6 o'clock. And I believe they are looking to hold that by teleconference, so we will see how that goes.
You said Trout Days was canceled?
That's correct. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Any other trustee would like to do a report? Bill?
I just really want to thank Lee Sorensen. This officially is probably this last meeting, but we make, depending on if we have an election or if we have another special meeting, but I really want to thank Lee for 6 years of being on the village board and contributing a lot and being a public service, and so thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Appreciate it.
Anyhow, I would, as Bill says, in all probability, this is my last meeting as a trustee of the village. And it's been 6 years. It's been a good 6 years. I have enjoyed working with everybody on the board. I've enjoyed working with staff, with Mike, with Jerry, with Bobby, with Andrea, Renee. Anyhow, it's a very good experience. I've also worked with, in this 6 years, I've worked with 3 administrators. First Matt, and then Caitlin, and now Bill, and I appreciate working with Bill and those before, and it's been an interesting experience because upheaval with the transition, but each administrator has come here with new things to help the village run better, and I really appreciate that opportunity, that what has come out of having worked with 3 administrators. I've only lived in the village for 15 years, and there've only been 4 administrators, and I've worked with 3 of them on the board, so it's kind of been a quick turnover. But I look back, something I ran across here the other day. The first time I ran for trustee was 13 years ago. So it took a while to get here, but it's been a good 6 years, and I've enjoyed very much the opportunity, but it's time to move on.
Thank you.
Yep, very good. Anybody else? All right, we will be moving to general business. Discussion and possible action regarding the request for a conditional use permit to construct an addition to Park Elementary School located at 1902 Park Street, Cross Plains.
Just want to say a quick clerical error there. It's the address of Park Street is 1209 Park Street.
1209 Park Street, okay. Is there a presentation at all, or?
So the materials are within your packet, I believe. Sorry, I don't
Okay,
have your.
well, I'm Robin Savola anyway, and Bill Everhart from the school district is, I think, online, or he is available via phone if there's any questions for the district or fleet. I do have some printed copies of the presentation if you guys would like those, or it is in your board packet.
Yeah, I have the packet. My only question the last time was I requested that the LEDs be reset in, And it looks like, again, I'm not an electrician, but it looks like the LEDs are flat, so while I see where it's not gonna have light pollution over your borders, it's that whole thing of seeing those bright lights a mile away, and I had asked if we could, you know, put some type of shield so you can't see them from a distance shining. And it's real easy, when you leave here, you can go look at our new development in Veridian, and a mile away, you can still see those bright lights.
Okay.
It's not that the light hits you, but just because the LEDs are so bright. So I had requested that we reset the lights up into the holder or whatever.
I apologize if that got.
Oh, no, and it doesn't look like from your drawing that that is the case.
Yeah, there's not a deep recess, there's a tiny one, but we can look at a different, light fixture if that's a, you know.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. And then,
I do have Bill on the line here, and I've unmuted him. Bill, can you hear us?
Yes.
And we did have a question come in earlier today from Michael Pamakowski. They had asked if solar panels were considered for this addition on the new cafeteria roof, as the cafeteria will have an unobstructed southern exposure and receive plenty of sunlight. And
So I had emailed you earlier, but I'll kind of re-summarize what we did talk about, or what I sent. When the referendum was sent out and passed, it did not have solar within its referendum dollar amount, and so, but we were also looking at it. It's been brought up before, and we talked about it, and at the high school with the same thing, and so we started working with, probably almost a year and a half ago now, with MG&E and their solar farm at Maury Field, and so we're investing within that to do some of the solar that, we could do more there for every dollar than we could at the separate sites. So that's why we don't have anything at Park, is one, because it wasn't a part of the referendum, neither was it at the high school or at Polk Farm. And then secondly, we are working with MG&E and the Maury Field solar farm that they have going on there.
do we have any other questions for Bill?
All right, I guess I'll
make a few comments.
oh, go ahead.
So I just wanna reiterate that this proposal had gone to the Plan Commission on March 2nd. At that time, the architect had shown a two-tone red coloring for the back face, I believe, of the building. My understanding is that now they are going with a single tone color to match the roof of the current building. I'll have Robin talk a little bit more about that.
yeah, these were the two tones, it was a sort of a striped pattern along here. And then, just, everybody'd have to handle them for obvious reasons. And then this one is the one that was the custom color, and it was really a cost-driven decision. The price for the custom color did come in significantly higher than we originally anticipated. So this is what is on the existing roof. So it would just be maintaining this color. There is still the patterning in the metal panels will give it some texture, and I do have some samples of those if you'd like to see those.
Does anybody want to see him?
Okay.
Just Google.
So that is the modification from when it was presented to Plan Commission. Yeah.
And then in your packet, you'll see a set of conditions that had been recommended by the Planning Commission. One of the more urgent items on there was amending the environmental corridor through the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission, because all the green space behind the building, including the background, including the playground, is in that environmental corridor, and because of that, they would not be able to construct there. And so we asked CARPC to take a look at that, to do their research, and they found that it had been added at that time, most likely because it was playground space, not necessarily because of an environmental concern. And so they had stated that that could be amended administratively, and we went ahead and requested that. And so that has been amended, and it will reflect on the new map to be updated this month. So that hurdle is cleared.
Was
Bill.
there anything else from planning that was up in the air that needed to be addressed?
No, the rest of it is pretty standard in regards to construction, when to construct, checks with Jerry, and I can read through them if you want me to.
No, it's okay, I kind of read some of it over the weekend. With the pandemic that we're currently in right now, I mean, is there a chance that this would not even get started in time?
Really, it depends. I mean, as of Friday, the congregation of 10 people or more, the construction was exempt from that. That was Friday's post from Peters. As you know, every day things potentially change. If for some reason they say construction in this, sorry, I can't remember, safe at home, I think is what it is. If for some reason they list construction sites as part of that, then that would obviously have an impact, but we don't know that until.
Okay.
But we're moving forward with the assumption that construction will happen and school will, start on time.
Okay.
That was my question also.
Do I have a motion then?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second?
So I have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit to construct an addition to Park Elementary School located at 1209 Park Street, Grouse Plains. All right, we'll
Does
need,
that motion, that implied that those issues that Bill mentioned are included in that? I mean, that's
I would think so.
included in
Yeah.
the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zander,
Yes.
trustee Francois,
Yes.
trustee Sorensen,
Yes?
trustee Brosius,
Yes,
and President Langfeld.
Yes. Very good. Good luck with that. Hopefully they'll,
Yes.
won't have too big of an impact. All right. Discussion and possible action regarding Glacier Valley Park Playground.
All right, in your packets tonight is kind of some information in regards to the Glacier Valley Park Playground update. In August of 2019, staff worked with the community doing a vision session to kind of figure out what they were hoping to see at that playground. We received roughly 52 different proposals from the people on the night of our visioning session, and then another 25 or so after that in regards to what they'd like to see. During that time, we found that Miracle Recreation, which is one of the vendors for playgrounds, was more or less one of the main concepts of their playground. A lot of those concepts were met with what the community was looking for. After talking it over with Miracle on the process, they talked to me about a product called Sourcewell. Sourcewell pricing. The Sourcewell pricing was where all governmental agencies come together to look for the lowest proposal in regards to the equipment that they're looking to get. Keeps us all in line in regards to obviously state ordinance, state policy in regards to buying playgrounds and or equipment, anything over the $25,000 threshold. In guys' packet today is a staff recommendation to go with option 3, which is at a price tag a little bit larger than what we had budgeted for originally. The original budget accounted for $105,000 in capital and $20,000 to come from the unrestricted fund balance from the Parks and Recreation Department. This recommendation from staff is also directly in line with the community. We did do a community voting where the community could vote online. Sent out a little card, showed all 3 options, allowing them to send me an email directly with their address and also which one they would vote for. I guess with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Okay, I'll start. I got a couple of them for you, Mike. One, I think that's substantially over budget would be one of my comments. 2, I'm wondering if it makes sense to put up a brand new playground when we're asking people not to use community. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the price tag and then the image that we're doing on that. And then the third, and we can just wait on that, is the funding sources that you're coming from. I'd like to have that discussion, but I think that can be set aside. So I'm just wondering if it makes sense to spend $146,000 now for playground equipment when we're in this situation that we're in. I mean, that would be my first global one. And I think you guys did an outstanding job in getting community involvement and all that. So it's not a knock on that at all. It's just the timing and the situation we're in. Those would be my questions, you know.
Speaking to your second part of that, question number 2, with being a village, is it something that we should be doing right now? When we talked about putting this on the agenda, everything wasn't as escalated as it is now. I had actually heard from you when you came in the office that we need to keep government going forward, we need to keep things moving forward. So after talking with Bolden Recreation about the process of this, still today after I contacted him, I said, you know, if we were to receive this and give this to you by April 1st, you know, we're at a June 8th timeline, which we're looking for to do a community build, would that still be possible, at least have the equipment by then? Now, will we be able to even have more than that many people on a site to build something like this? By then, we're not really sure. But I was just looking at trying to keep things moving forward. So.
Sure. Okay, Lori and then Bill.
I'm wondering, can it be done in stages? Like we could do what's in the budget. I think it's good to keep stuff going in the community. I mean, especially who knows what summer's gonna bring, nice new outdoor play equipment. Might be an incentive for maybe a family at a time to go play on. I don't know. I think keeping things going and people seeing that, you know, not everything's coming to a stop might be a good thing. But the dollars, I am concerned about going over what that budget was.
Yeah, from my standpoint,
You're
just
snagging on the
just
cord
stating
on there.
where we're doing this at, doing an update like that.
Put the microphone on the floor.
We obviously have already tore up a lot of the area that this would be in. Doing it in stages might be kind of tough to get the area looking nice and then to come back another year and tear it up again in areas to add on, if you're saying. Might be kind of, and along that line, it may also come in at a higher price tag the next time when you're going to add on. You're not buying as much product, so the price is usually a little bit higher.
Okay, I got Bill and Sarah,
So,
and then Lee.
you initially, you had 130, or I'm sorry, you had 36,190 of unrestricted fund balance to make up for the difference in that?
Correct.
Where does that come from?
It comes from the Parks and Recreation unrestricted fund balance. So about 4 years ago, our budget had changed, where the Parks and Recreation, you're actually on the park board at that time. Yes. The Parks and Recreation Department budget changed where we became our own fund. We went out of the general fund, mainly for transparency purposes. Now that we look at it, that at the time that it happened, it was actually due to the village administrator trying to figure out how he could get more shared revenue, I believe, from the state. It didn't work out that way in regards to the budgeting aspect. However, it did show transparency in regards to money coming in to money going out for just our department. Prior to that, we were in the budget of the administrator, the general budget, which, you know, lumping everything together didn't really account for the amount of money. And it also showed us how much money we had left at the end of the year. In projected revenue, over the last 14 years since I've been here, the actual revenue has been a little bit more. Last year, it was quite a bit more than what we had projected due to new programming opportunities that we've given to the community. So we're in this was our 3-year average for this year to try and figure out what that is, more in regards to our after-school program and also our full-day camp during the summer. So you know, we projected those numbers off of 16 kids for each of those programs, and for instance, last year we had 38 kids in our full-day camp for the summer, so it's obviously a lot more revenue. It's also a lot more expense in there too because we had to hire more staff, but the revenue definitely far exceeded our expenses.
So just as a comment, I mean, to the village board, is that, I don't even know how many homes were there, 200 homes in that subdivision alone? But you've got those homes, you have a child care facility right across the street, and you have the fire station, which is right across the street basically, which they use for summer programming to use that park. And the park's been torn apart since August, September-ish.
No, we actually didn't take the old playground down until December and January.
It seemed earlier than that.
Yeah,
But right now it's pretty empty, and you know, we have a skeleton of the swing set, pretty much, and a bike rack. So I would like to see us, you know, if we get done talking, at least move forward in getting stuff ordered, but maybe not get it installed yet. It's kind of a thought.
Sarah, then Lee.
Well, I just want to, just along like with what Bill was saying, I think it's probably the most highly utilized park area just because of all that's over there. And I just want to make sure I understand, looking at this, so the unrestricted fund balance is currently 168?
correct.
And so you're asking for a difference of 17,000 from what was originally projected, right?
Difference 20, yes, 36, 20, yeah. Because
And
originally we were using 20 of it.
Right, so then that's, what else was the plans for that fund balance? Are there other?
There wasn't currently any plans in regards to that fund balance. It was to have the committee actually come up with a fund balance policy with direction from the village board, unless there's a change within that.
Okay, Lee, then myself.
Okay, well, just clarifying. It's over budget, but at the same time, the money, we're not breaking the bank in a sense because we're using fund balance, right? I mean, it's just you're sucking money out of fund balance that you might use for something else but had no plans for, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, well, the other thing I'm thinking about, based on situation right now, I don't think there's a reason why we should consider postponing this. I gotta believe that by the time we're ready to install it, you know, circumstances are going to be much different, so I'm inclined to say, go ahead, let's do this, because it's the budget part is okay. The part that's coming from revenue, it's just that the fund balance is the extra, so I'd be in favor of that, having it go forward in total, and, you know, it might not, you know, like Laurie was suggesting, doing it in part, it might end up actually costing us more in the long run anyhow, and it would make kind of a mess, so.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to my third on the finances. It's not free money. Here's what Matt tried to do, is turn Parks and Recreation, this is my opinion, to get under the key, is trying to turn Parks and Recreation into an enterprise agency, which means they run their own budget. They're not tied to the taxpayer. So they take their revenues and it equals their expenses. You see that in utilities, you see that in the bus company, where you have revenues coming in. So where I have a problem with the finance of this, while they have this large fund balance, you have to realize there's a bunch of money coming from the general fund to pay some of the expenses in the parks and recreation. They're not a standalone. So that fund balance, they didn't have to use all that money that they brought in from extra kids being in programs, because the funding was coming, a lot of it was coming from the general fund. And that's where I have some difficulty with this. If it was an enterprise agency, I would not have a problem with that. But this really belongs, parts of it, while it is correct that the revenues have built it up, but that is only because of the money that the general fund has given them to cover some of the expenses, mainly salaries of our full-time employees. Mike's salary is paid by the general fund, not necessarily. So when they balance that out, yes, there's this huge fund balance, and if you read the memo from Bobby the last time, she had calculated as $301,000 in the fund balance. All right, it turns out that it wasn't that high. Some of that fund balance is restricted, some is unrestricted. But I think what Mike has come up with, if I'm hearing correct, there's 168 that's unrestricted in that fund balance, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that means that can be, so my question to the people who are in favor of moving this, why wouldn't we use that whole fund balance to pay for this equipment? Why are we borrowing money and having the general fund pay debt service if we have this huge amount of fund balance sitting here that's for park equipment? That's what the finance part I have questions with, because what Matt did, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, was when you do, and the city of Madison has tried this too, when you bring someone into a enterprise agency, you take all that money and it comes off the levy limits. So that increases how much room you have between your budget and the levy limit. That's how, but that's not how it worked out here. His costs are all against, including everything he brings in is going against our levy, which the taxpayers have to make up. I'll let you respond, and then Bill.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Jay. I would say two things though. One thing, in the last 14, or I'll say the last 5 years that this has happened, one thing that it has done is not made it so that we needed more levy, right? We haven't went over budget at all. And if we did, we took directly from that fund balance that was in place for our department only to respond to those extra expenses. The second thing is, I feel that most, if not all, enterprise funds, especially within the village, are actually set up that exact same way. There are still full-time wages from other departments. There's still other aspects within that enterprise fund that are being funded.
Oh, that's not true. Sewer and water,
Yes.
all their costs should be coming out of that. There should be, while we may pay for Jerry's salary, a percent of that is coming from sewer, a percentage of that is coming from water. So I just want to clarify, an enterprise has to be an enterprise.
Right.
You can't do
I
both.
understand that.
Okay. Okay, Bill.
So, first of all, I agree with you. I would be delighted if all this could come out of the unrestricted fund. I think that would be brilliant. I think that's what it's for. I think having the park and rec group, department be an enterprise is a different discussion eventually.
Oh.
You're right, it's not, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I understand, you're giving history and kind of what the thought process was behind it. But bottom line is, I think we need the park. I like the fact that the Park and Rec did all the work and came up with options. They got people's input. They decided this is what they want to do. Let's give them what they want. We have the money that's unrestricted funds. So let me know and I'll make a motion to do that, but after we're done.
Okay, okay, then Lee and then myself.
Am I?
Yep, yep.
Okay, we budgeted, I mean, it's part of our current levy that taxpayers are paying for right now, to pay for part of this, right? We did do that, I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
Yes, we borrowed money in 2019 to go towards this, yes.
Correct.
Okay, so, then, I mean, it's sort of like, it's a done deal, isn't it? I mean,
No,
what happens if we don't,
When you borrow-
what happens if we don't use the money that was
we will probably,
budgeted and borrowed for, what happens to that?
we will use that for another capital project. It has to go to a capital project. But when you borrow, when you sent out those bonds for 1.6 million, it did not, when the person bought the bonds, they did not know, okay, this much is going for playground, this much is going for this. They knew that the village of Cross Plains is borrowing $1.6 million to go where it needs to go. Now, I am guessing, and this is just a guess, there's people here that were on the board then, but I'm wondering if you knew when you did that borrowing that there was that kind of money in the fund balance. Because I just found out about it when we did. Now, maybe,
To be just upfront with that, that was in the proposal, as I showed 20,000. However,
Yeah.
in the last 2 years, that fund balance has increased exponentially due
Okay.
to those two programs. So that,
Okay.
I don't know what it was exactly. I would say it
Sure.
was, like, I don't think I had that.
you know, it's not important. I just wanted to clarify, when you borrow, it doesn't have to go,
Right.
unless the bond is for just utility, then it would obviously have to go for
So in
that.
2017, the fund balance in that account was 61,000. In 2018, it was 106,000. So
Yeah. It's
there
grown,
wasn't
yeah,
as much at that time.
yeah. Okay, I have Bill, then Lee.
All right, 2 questions. Do we have any grant money for this?
Not for the playground.
I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, we did apply in 2019 for it.
Yeah.
Can't think of the name right now, but we didn't receive it due to our income levels.
Okay. The other thing I just, as a, kind of as a speculator, just looking at, you're talking about bonds, right? I
Yeah.
know, but the bond market right now is not looking healthy. So if we have capital that we're gonna need, and I don't think we're planning on taking out another loan through bonds, but in case we needed to, it might be very, very difficult. So the money that we have already kind of stowed away for capital that we're getting from bonds, I think we use that for what's critical.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not, yeah, I clearly understand. I'm not really sure what you mean by the bond market is
Well-
critical. I mean, the interest rate's very, very low, and people kind of like municipal bonds, but that's all right.
But right now, I heard on a financial thing Friday night.
Or that people aren't buying bonds?
People are not buying bonds.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they're very worried about it.
All right, I don't know.
Okay,
Lee?
just to clarify, you said when we borrowed the 1.6 million, did we know how that was gonna be divided up? And no, I guess I'd have to say, we did not. And one of the things that I recall now, as we went into this particular budget cycle, was the fact that the information that, as we worked on the budget, I mean, this is more comment on the budget process, was the fact that fund balance information was not available when we did the budget. You know, nobody knew exactly, you know, afterwards we started saying, well, we can do this with fund balance. Well, who knew we had fund balance anywhere? There was nothing in our budget process that talked about fund balance. So that's something that needs to be, I mean, that's just a note to Bill for next year, that the fund balance is there. But I think, Bill, you're suggesting that there's no money available to borrow by bonds?
No, I'm not, no, and I don't wanna put that panic into the village.
Yeah.
I just heard a report on Friday that because of the way the market is right now, and because where interest rates are,
Right.
that groups are not interested right now in buying bonds, but, that could change tomorrow. I don't know, I'm just saying, we have money that we borrowed already from bonds. Let's be, I'm kind of
I understand.
hanging on to what you're saying, let's be
Yeah.
smart about it, and let's use that money for things that are more critical.
I would,
You're saying not using it for.
I'm thinking
I-
of the fund balance.
right, I think he's backing it, let me just clarify over here. So when you came up with that amount, you clearly had to say, I was there at that meeting, I know 500,000 went to the farmer for phosphorus. I know there was a playground, there was some for, the Xander. I think there was some for your software program, there's like that. There was, money for engineering, I think, for the well, maybe. There were a number, so that's how you came up with the 1.6. You had a line item.
Yeah.
But what happens is you can change your mind if priorities change, that can happen. And like you say, there is flexibility. I think some of the stuff came in lower, some came in a little higher, and you have it. And we do have a fund balance in the capital account.
Right.
There's also a capital fund balance. Go ahead, Mike.
Just to get back to what I was getting to tonight, is I'm just looking for recommendations. How you guys spend or where the money comes from is completely on you as the board. I just gave my recommendation. So there is an unrestricted fund balance. That's the amount, the 168. And then there's other restricted fund balance accounts. And then there's also the 105 that was already borrowed in 2019 for this project that could be used elsewhere, providing that's okay.
Okay, how hard or what impact with this project if you brought it, made cuts to it to get you to the amount that people originally, which was what, 125? I'm trying to remember. You said 105 plus 20,
Yeah,
right?
125.
125, and we're at 146 or
141.
141. So is there the 16,000 somewhere that can be cut to get it within budget? I mean, I think it's gonna be, with the times and the things we're gonna be looking at, for people to see that we're spending this kind of money on this, and then to go over budget. I guess I really need to know what impact it would be to get it back down to the budgeted amount. And then Lori, Lee, did you want to say something?
No.
Okay.
Going from green to orange would say, is it like 14,000?
Oh, yes.
What was your second choice? What's the second one that got
Second
the?
choice isn't, that was actually numbered, from the community side?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was numbered, it was a purple and yellow one, I'm sorry, number 2, which was purple.
The community wanted the green option.
Correct, but I'm saying it came in, which is really swayed, but in regards to the numbers. So number 3, or option green, was by far the highest. It had, I think 39,
Yeah.
if I remember right. I think it's
Much higher.
Yeah,
Yeah, then it was like 8 and 2 or something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
option orange, which would save us $14,000, had 2 votes.
What I,
Yeah, okay, I have Bill, then Sarah.
So just a reminder, this last park lasted us 30 years. So you're talking about having the community install this,
correct.
which is what happened 30 years ago too.
Right, it has to be that way, otherwise we have to pay like another 43,000.
Yeah, yeah, so,
So
yeah,
community and staff.
yeah, mostly it was community when we did it 30 years ago. But that park did last 30 years, so I think if we're gonna make an investment, and again, this is a high profile, and it's one of the more used parks. I think we give the community what they want.
Okay, go ahead, Sarah, and then
I
myself.
feel like Bill always says what I'm gonna say right before I say it.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I was thinking the same thing, it's probably got a shelf life of 30 years and it's so highly utilized and, I mean, perhaps we agree to cut the difference a little bit differently for taking out of the unrestricted to fund it, but I think that going with the one that's, you know, clearly preferred by the community and it's used so much more. It's not just a neighborhood park, it's kind of like the anchor park for Cross Plains with the use it gives. I don't know.
Okay, and I'm not arguing against the value of the park. The question is, do you think?
Funding of it.
Yeah, well, not only that, do you think the citizens think it's more important to have that park or to do flood mitigation or the well work or, you know, the other things that are out there? I think when we look at these, I think it's good to look at this and dig deep into the weeds and stuff on these projects, but I think you gotta also look at the big picture and where would they sit on this? Because we have to come up and understand we can no longer do everything. It's impossible to do everything. So when we have these discussions, I think it's important to at least keep the big picture there. Now, I know Mike, go ahead.
I was just thinking on that, like, I don't disagree. We have a capital improvement plan, 5 years out. This was one of those items within that capital improvement plan. You know, flood mitigation's another part of that. I think the well is another part of that. I mean, those are all part of our improvement plans. This was obviously put into the budget as something that was critical and something that was needed within that area and or within our village.
Okay, got Sarah, then
Let
Bill.
me go first.
Yeah, I let you go, Sarah.
Maybe you're gonna say this,
I'll
but,
tie it in.
how would people feel about, just refiguring the payment of this and taking more of the unrestricted fund balance to fund it? And taking some of that money from the capital fund to put to something else in the village, maybe splitting it differently?
Bill?
I wasn't gonna say that. So,
So you didn't read your mind.
what was I gonna say? So, to answer your question, Jay, this is something, the well is not tangible. Flood mitigation, those are important. And I think the people understand that. But this is something that's tangible, people see, they can use each and every day. And so I think this is as important as those other things that you mentioned as well.
Okay. I just want to make sure everybody sees this big picture because we can't say yes to
Totally
everything.
agree.
At some place we got to say no. Go ahead, Lori.
I like the idea that Sarah came up with taking some of the unrestricted and kind of shuffling that money. And it's just because I think we don't know what this coronavirus is gonna do. And to, at least we have like a little bit of safety monies, right? We would have in that other fund that we wouldn't be using all for this play equipment.
Yeah. Let me go and then I'll,
There you
yeah,
go,
yeah. I agree, but see, to me, I'd go a little more, I would say the whole project has to be funded with fund balance. There's, you know, at this time, and the borrowing part of it, if need be, comes under others. We have the cash on hand. I don't understand why we'd want to borrow when we have it sitting in the bank making 0.001% on it. If this is a critical thing that everybody thinks this playground is, then we should use, if it's that important that it equals flood mitigation and a well, I don't understand why you wouldn't use all your fund balance, because that's how important it is. Bill,
So,
and then Lee.
I'm wondering if we can break this up into two motions. I wonder if we could, because I think what Mike needs, is a direction of which playground to go to, which playground to get on order and start preparing for, right?
Correct.
And then I think part two, which could be a separate motion, is how are we going to pay for it within the village? So one motion would be giving him direction, second motion would be giving us direction, giving, you know, on how we're gonna pay for it. Just thoughts about that?
Well, I'm okay with splitting it like that. The question is, when you say the equipment, are you going at the total cost or the cost that was originally budgeted to say that's what we were gonna
So
spend on it?
141, 19,
So you're going for the
the total
full
cost.
cost. All right, Lee?
Yeah, well, I'm with Bill on that idea. Because, particularly because we've already basically ripped out all the equipment in that park, so that heavily utilized park now has nothing in it, so we gotta put something in there. Do it right, it's gonna be 30 years, and then, you know, first of all, agree that we're gonna do the green version, and then, well, let's do that and then see if we can figure
Okay,
out
can
how
I
to pay
just
for
do a
it.
follow-up for you? When you say do it right, for you, that means you have to do the green version? Or I agree that we took the equipment out, but there's gotta be some equipment put in. I think we're all in agreement on that. The question is, how much are we willing to spend to put the equipment in? So I just wanna get clarification on when you say do it right. I personally think you can still do it right by keeping it within budget, but I didn't know what that meant when you said that, so if you could clarify.
Okay, yeah, well, by that I mean, that was all the work that went into figuring out what was needed, what was wanted in that park. And then lay out the options and have the vast majority of respondents say they want this one. So, it seems like that's what I say, when I say do it right, I'm talking about
Well-
to me, that's the one to do.
But see, I guess my concern is the direction was to do something for 125,000. All right, we got something for 141,000. You know, so the question is it within there? Because if we pass something and then we don't hold to it, you know, I guess, where's the slide here? I mean, we budgeted, we say this is what we want, and if it doesn't come in on that, you know, if it was $100, $200, no one's gonna care, but 16, I mean, going from 125 to 141, it's only 16,000, it's still a lot to me, but wow, 141,000 for play equipment. Okay, I got Mike, and then it'll be Bill. Did you wanna say something?
No, not yet.
Okay,
I'll let Bill say
You
it.
can go before me.
all right, go ahead,
The
Mike.
only other thing I will bring up is, in the 2019 capital budget, we had put in $25,000 for a bark blower, of which we found another idea and a cheaper idea to do within our parks to get to get bark in our parks, which was about $13,000 if I remember right, which saved about $15,000 in regards to what was approved for that project, of which none of us had went back and requested more funding from the capital budget in 19. So just another opportunity or another way that, you know, yes, this has come over budget in regards to what we had thought it would cost us, but it's actually really close if you look at just the playground. If you look at the border that we'd like to add to it, if you look at the wood chips that need to be added to it, which is the cheapest option we could go with, that brings it up, because we were up close within our budget at the 128,000 within our proposal. So.
Can I just make a few?
Sure, ahead, Bill.
What is the lead time on ordering the playground equipment?
If April 1st, if we get it in by April 1st, who knows? But if we get it in by April 1st, June 1st was the time that we could we'd get it in-house.
Okay, I'm missing. So you mean if you put the order in by April 1st, it should come by June 8th?
Well, June 8th was my date that I was trying to set up as a goal for myself back in. Well,
But I don't understand. So you're ordering it by April 1st? Do you think, when will it come in then?
Yeah, June 1st.
Oh, I see.
June 8th was hoping, since it's the first day of summer, was hoping that we'd have our community built around that date.
Oh, gotcha, okay. All right.
And then I just want to mention, whichever way you go here, whether you're financing the project with capital improvement funds or from fund balance, at least from what I'm hearing, in the recent years here, the fund balance was used to cover some of the overages, for lack of a better word, in that budget. And so therefore, if you do utilize that fund balance now, going into next budgeting cycle, you have a small shift in the way that you think there.
Well, and
Just to make that mention.
that was the only thing I was gonna bring up as well, is obviously with this all happening currently here now, the revenue aspect that we've projected for 2020 could be less, of which then we would, be taking from that fund balance to help with those expense sides. Now, the expense side should be down as well. I'm just not saying, it may not be apples to apples, since the revenue usually exceeded the expense.
Right, but the fund balance is usually covered on purchases, not on salaries or anything like that. So if you,
No, there's no,
what do we, I'd like to know what are we covering in fund balance outside of individual purchases?
Anything within our budget that goes over, this comes directly from our fund balance.
That you go over,
Correct.
okay.
but a
Does
portion
that
of
include,
that,
like the pool repairs and stuff?
Anything, could have
but
been.
some of your hourly,
Yeah, hourly, yes.
your hourly
Correct.
staff time is covered by, depending on how much you cover in services.
Correct.
Is that correct?
But that's already budgeted.
Not, there be.
If you
so
close the
for
pool, you're not gonna have any extra shifts for lifeguards.
Right.
So I guess I'm not, so if the
Right,
pool doesn't roll,
however-
I'm not sure where the extra.
However, those are still always, when you're doing your expenses, you're trying
Yeah.
to keep as close as you can to where it's supposed to be. Now, for instance, the after-school program, I had budgeted $10,000 for part-time wages at 16 people. But now I had to budget, for 32 people, so we needed 5 or 6 more staff. So our expense instead of 10,000 was 22,000, which would come directly out of the fund balance or revenue side.
Revenue, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, even with the numbers of paying this 100%, that still leaves 20-some thousand dollars. And if your budget is over by 20,000 on those, we didn't do a very good job in budgeting. That's a substantial, I don't.
I guess I'm more worried about the revenue side. If we don't hit the revenue side
Mhm.
within the number of, participants in full day camp or after school throughout the summer, we may not reach that revenue, but you then, I would guess, would pull from the fund balance.
Right, but again,
And then readjust for next year.
I think there's plenty left in fund balance for that, even with paying 100% of this.
And if there's not,
Well, then we'll find it somewhere else. We'll
Okay.
do cuts, but come on. I think we really need in these times to really talk about what reality is versus what ifs. And tell me how many times, I'd like to know the last 2 years, the amount of money that you dipped into fund balance that was not a purchase. Because I'm looking at your fund balance going from, you mentioned it, 61,000, 105,000, now it's 160. I don't know how you're dipping into your fund balance when you got that kind of.
correct, because the last 2 years has been where we've received the most revenue.
Correct.
Now, if that would have been in other previous years, we would have most likely dipped into it. Now, we've been fortunate and lucky enough to not have, large issues with the pool or large issues in one of the parks that would dip into that. The only places we've actually had to dip into it would be for staffing through recreation programs where excess revenue is being brought in. That's not accounting for the other 2 departments, or other 2 aspects of our department, pool and parks.
Lee?
Got another point here. If Mike came here with this plan under budget, in other words, he wouldn't take any he would take the 105 or whatever and whatever else was necessary to complete the project as planned, as we originally conceived it. Would we then say, well, no, you can't do that anyhow because we need to save because you got fund balance, I mean, in other words, if it was right on budget or even under, would we be having this same discussion? The money was borrowed to do that. And it's,
Okay.
and it, we have the money, it was borrowed, we borrowed it, we're paying interest on it, but it was borrowed. Okay, and Mike says, well, I need another 20,000, and then we need an extra 15. The equation doesn't really change, other than the fact that he wants more money from fund balance to make it happen. We've got the money in the bank because we borrowed it a year ago to do this.
All right, I'm gonna go myself then Bill. Lee, it could, if he came in today and it was 50,000, I would be doing the exact same thing. It makes no sense for me to have this money in the bank and not use it and borrowing. And I'm not sure we've borrowed this money yet.
We did.
Oh, we did? It's not out of the 2020
That was
part?
2019.
Okay.
This project was actually supposed to happen in 2019, but due to our administrator leaving,
Yeah.
it slowed down.
Yeah, so to answer your question, absolutely, I'm looking to bring down fund balances so we're not constantly borrowing money. Absolutely, so it wouldn't matter if this was above budget or under budget, as Bill says, the second thing on how we're gonna fund it. Bill?
So, Mike, what's the difference, I'm trying to look at the difference between the orange and the green solution, or option 1 and option 3. So, what is, I mean, what's really the big differences between the two options that is,
There's an extra tower in the green than there is in the orange and purple.
oh, in that section of,
Yep.
of connections and whatnot?
Correct.
I think
Sarah?
one of the things that's appealing about the third one, just from anecdotally and from things I've heard from other people, is that it appeals to a wider range of children's ages because of the diversity of pieces of the, and that's why, that's my guess is why I got such a high difference of votes, because you have the daycare, young kids, and the after-school program and the summer school program, or the summer camp. And those are second, third, fourth, fifth grade kids that aren't, so it appeals to a wider range, which a lot of families like because they have kids in the full range. So you don't like, fifth grade kids don't wanna go play on like the same equipment as a preschooler. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Would you say, Mike?
Correct.
All right, any other, Lee?
Well, let me ask Mike. What would you say if we said, take it all out of fund balance? What do you say to that?
That's totally your guys' call. That's a financial decision which, between Jay, Bobby, and the board, I feel, to make that. I personally feel like that's a great use of fund balance, is for capital projects. That was something that I was hoping to get in place in regards to that fund balance for some time. There are a couple other projects on the docket, or at least discussion points, of which I had on our agenda for the Park and Rec Committee meeting to use some of that for planning purposes, as I know we don't like to borrow money for planning purposes. So I was hoping to use some of those funds for planning for the amphitheater / open air structure down in Xander Park, with the Lions Club. So, yeah, it's, the funding aspect of it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. It's just for future planning purposes for other parks and or projects. I'd like to see some funding set up that way.
Bill?
So based on everything I've heard here, I'm just gonna go ahead and make a motion that we go with the third option, the green option. And this is not talking about how we're going to pay for it, we're just talking about which option to go to give Michael direction. So that's my motion, is we go with that option.
Do I have a second? All right, any other discussion? All right, I will, just so everybody knows ahead of time, I'll be voting no because of not making budget. Go ahead, Lori.
Are you still making are we still doing the two motions?
Yep.
Yes, this is just on
What to
the
do?
equipment. The
Uh-huh.
second the second motion will be on financing it.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion and a second to accept the green option for the playground equipment.
That's option 3, right?
Option 3, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
At Glacial Valley.
yeah, Glacier Valley. So let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zander,
No.
trustee Francois,
Yes.
trustee Sorensen,
Yes?
trustee Brochus,
Yes.
President Langfeld.
No. All right,
All right.
yep, motion
So-
carries.
3-2.
I will make a motion that we pay for the new playground equipment, 100% out of fund balance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? All right, Sarah?
One thing I just want to put out there with the fund balance is, Mike made reference to was the pavilion at the Lions Legacy Project is another thing that I think also appeals to a large range of village residents, maybe on the other end, not necessarily kids, but adults in the village, and I think there's a lot of interest in that and a high momentum, and I think it would have a big impact on the community, so I would just want to keep that in mind. If we close to deplete the parks fund balance, like, I think the Parks Committee would really like to see something left to be able to put towards the Lions Legacy Project.
I still believe, I mean, again, I can't give you the exact number, but if you read your memo, it stated there was 301,000.
But now it's 160.
No, because there are some differences, and some of it is restricted, some of it like Bear Park.
It's 168 is the actual unrestricted number, not 300.
The rest
Less.
is restricted to other projects
Right.
or other areas. So I just want to make sure that everybody's clear, there's still monies there for Bear Park. What's some of the other, is any of them for
I have them all.
Xander?
I actually have them all. Like,
Okay.
To date. Pool Improvement Fund is one, that has $45,267 in it. Bear Park Improvement has $49,348 in it. And the Viridian dedication has $37,496.
So- You got a lot of things covered with that.
This leaves 29,000 left in the unrestricted fund.
Restricted, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to put it out.
Yeah, no, I
there.
appreciate that. No,
I'd
it's,
like to
it's,
be able to do something.
absolutely, and I think we've made that commitment, but I think, again, I'm hoping that project still goes forward on the timeline that we talked about, but I gotta believe this is really hurting them because Trout Day was gonna be a big fundraiser for the Lions Club, so, yeah, Mike.
I would just request, I mean, there has, obviously with the times right now as well, there's been a number of discussions and questions about what's happening with the trail from, Bourbon Road all the way out to the new development that'll be happening, of which Bill had talked about tonight at the beginning that we didn't receive the grants for. We did have $50,000 as a discussion point in the capital budget. That won't be going forward because we didn't get any grants for the project. So just to keep this in mind going forward, if we needed the $50,000 for this planning purpose, say in next year's budget, how do we plan to fund that? If that's a priority for you or not at the time. Whereas, fund balance, I feel like is a good spot for that to come from, not having to borrow money. The money for this project has already been borrowed by the village board prior to all of you. So, at least for 105,000 of it has been. So, just to keep
I think there's so many projects out there, it's gonna be difficult, but we just have to set priorities. And I don't know how those lots are selling, if this continues and more businesses close down, there's just too much. I think this is the smart thing to do right now. It's still, you still have some there, we're not wiping you out.
Well, it's not just me though. I mean,
No,
you as a board get to decide where.
Yeah,
it's spent, no
absolutely.
matter what, so.
No, I agree, and I'm hoping that our programs go through this summer and the revenues continue the way they are, and it looks like you make a profit of $40,000 to $50,000 a year. You read the numbers to us. 100.
Yeah.
Anything can change, but what I'm saying is, if you look at the past 2 years, you're bringing in tens of thousands of dollars over budget,
Right.
and I think
This year will be at an hour.
yeah, it could be. We'll see. I'm hoping by, April 7th, it's all over and we're back to normal again.
That's in like 2 weeks, right?
14 days.
Yep, all right, I digress. So we have a motion and a second to fund the option 3 playground equipment with Parks and Recreation fund balance. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zander,
Yes.
trustee Francois,
Yes.
trustee Sorensen,
Yes?
trustee Brosius,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You good work, and thank your committee
This is
for,
our celebration for the whole community, come out and help us build it.
there you go.
Absolutely.
I helped build the first one, I'll help build this one.
Thank your committee too. They did a nice job on that. Nice job.
Yes, Sarah.
Well, yeah, she's on it too, but there's other citizens. All right, discussion and possible action regarding amendments to the employee manual. This is something we talked about last Monday. You saw a draft. So if you have any, why don't we take a motion on this, since we've already had great discussion on this.
I'll move to approve the amendments to the employee manual.
Second.
In a second. So I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I mean,
Oh, Lee?
I reviewed I guess that was all the attorney markup?
Yeah, so.
So you said, you probably provided the marked up one and then you followed that with the.
Yeah, so what I did was I
The
took
way
a-
it is after it's marked up,
I
right?
took the comments that we received at the last meeting and I inserted them into the draft. And those comments were primarily defining what was work-related or what was defined as work-related. I think, Bill, you had brought up that. I'm just pulling.
I think you specified if you're working from home, or like report to work.
Yeah, report to work,
Right.
definition of a report to work, and basically we define that as anything related to the business of the village. And then second, I believe Kevin had the comment on, who declares the closure of the facility. And there was a question mark of whether or not that should be, the village administrator, and then affirmed or confirmed by the village board. I put that language in there, and it came back from Paul removing the affirmation by the village board, leaving it with the village administrator to close the facility. And that, I imagine, was because in an emergency situation, you'd want to make sure that you're reacting to it properly, and should the village board decide that that's not a proper reason for closing down Village Hall, you could always then hold that meeting to, whether it be to reopen it or to remove the village administrator from that position.
I saw that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions for Bill? I just want to say thank you for doing this. I know it was short notice and nicely done. All right, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. So we have discussion and possible action regarding the Village of Cross Plains Continuity of Operations Plan. This is another one that we saw last Monday for review. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Village of Cross Plains Continuity of Operations Plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good.
Question.
Okay, we'll have discussion. Go ahead, Lee.
Where was this attached somewhere? I didn't see it as part of this. You said that was a separate thing?
Yeah, it was dropped in your folder as a separate document because of the sensitivity of it.
Okay, I never found it.
Did you see it from last?
Oh, I see it, no, it's there.
Did you see it from last week? Cause it was last week and it was just really missing just some telephone numbers.
Yeah, what we added was the contact information of the second and third in commands for each of the departments.
That's really all you did?
Correct.
Okay. Cause I thought I knew where to find it, but I didn't. So I was just taking it on,
Yeah, it should be so in your OneDrive folder where I dropped your agenda packets into.
Could you make a hard copy and throw it in my mailbox for me? Thanks.
I don't know how to find my OneDrive.
Um,
I've been using Macintosh products for
okay.
30 years. I don't know what to do with how to find things on a PC. But anyhow, I mean, if all you did was add those names in there, I don't know, I'm good with that.
All right, any other discussion? Again, I want to thank you for putting this together. Certainly was needed. Now, who's in charge of keeping it up to date?
We will update it as part of the emergency management.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right, we'll go to number 4 on the consent agenda. Approval of Cross Plains Home Talent temporary Class B license application. Bill, you asked for this?
We did, I just want to make sure that that is still going on and still going forward, because that's all summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that
Well, I think you gotta give them, I mean, they're doing this so they have it. It may not start right away, but they're hoping at some point, but if we don't approve this and all of a sudden they're midsummer, we're gonna be in crisis to get it permitted. So it does, if it doesn't happen, there's nothing lost.
okay.
So, I mean, I think we're okay with that. And, you know, I'm sure they're hoping that they can start right on schedule, but
Right, no, I agree.
we just don't know. But I agree that you might as well keep dotting your i's and crossing your t's and hoping that it'll go.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the Cross Plains Home Talent temporary Class B license application submitted by Stan Nunn?
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All right, any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. All right, number 4,
That was
5, I'm sorry. Approval of the special event permit application for Cross Plains Trout Day, April 30th, 2020 through May 3rd, 2020. Now, you've told me, so they've withdrawn?
Oh, they've canceled it as of this afternoon. I received that email.
Okay, so they don't want the permit then?
I haven't received an official withdrawal from it, just an email saying that it's been canceled.
Correct. I forwarded that email. I had gotten it on Friday from Kevin Nikolai.
Okay.
Who had stated that the event would be canceled, the permit wouldn't be needed.
Oh, he did say that the permit's not needed?
Yeah, there's no event.
Well, I just don't, I know there isn't the official event, but I don't know if they were gonna still have okay.
As of right now, it's, I mean, if you approve it, it doesn't hurt anything.
Right, that's what.
Once again, just like, but
Have they paid or,
No, they have not paid their permit.
but if we approve it, then they would need to pay, right?
You could waive it.
Or you can not physically issue the permit until they pay it. You can approve the permit, but not
Okay.
physically issue it
Okay,
until they've paid that fee. And if they don't pay the fee, then come that date, you just,
okay. Everybody clear with that? I think this is a good thing. I don't wanna pull us together to do emergency one. So I guess if I could get a motion to approve the special events permit application for Cross Plains Trout Days, April 30th through May 3rd, with the understanding that they would only need to pay once they received the permit.
So I'll make the motion for approval of the special event permit application for the Cross Plains Trout Days, April 30th, 2020 through May 3rd, 2020. And they will pay the permit fee when they pick the permit up.
All right, do I have a second to that?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I don't think we should, I mean, I don't, if they cancel it, I don't see a reason to have the, go through this, but I mean, it's fine.
Well, I'm just trying to, I guess I'm just,
Changes.
yeah, we don't have the thing is, Mike has an email, right? But they haven't officially notified the board or Bill. So I'm not seeing it as, I know but I'm not sure why he sends it to you.
Well, he works, it's through the park. He sent me the permit to begin with, and then I forwarded it on
Yeah,
at the time. Just because they used most of the park, so he.
Yeah, no, I understand the thing. I'm just trying to make sure we do it right, that we don't do it here and it turns out that we weren't officially notified.
Just to prove it, and if he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what we have right now. So any other discussion?
if it changes, they'll have to come in for a new approval. But according to, in case something should turn around and they decide to hold it back, put it back together, we wouldn't have to come back.
Right.
Again, we'll hold the permit, it's been approved by the board, we'll hold the permit until they come in.
Okay.
For it.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. All right, number 6, approval of special event permit application for Riversmith Casting Clinic, May 16th, 2020.
That was pretty simple by comparison to trout days.
Yeah,
But it's the same thing, right? It's, I mean, by May 6th, I mean, hopefully, you know, we're done with this whole COVID-19 by April, mid-April, early May. But if not, you know, are we gonna pull this thing back if we're still under this emergency
this,
declaration?
no, this permit just allows it. They would be in violation if the rule is still in there for less than 10. That's all they can do. What we're doing is just approving that they have a permit to use the park at this time for this. I think we're making a huge mistake on trying to get into their business on deciding if they should have it or not. We're not there right now. They've asked for the permit. It's May 16th. I have no idea where we're gonna be on May 16th. So to me, we just need to approve it and see what happens by May 10th. I'm guessing that's when they were canceling. We didn't cancel hunter safety until 2 days before because the state said we had to.
I just wanted to bring this out to
Yep.
discussion. I think it's healthy to do that.
Yep. All right, do I have a motion?
Oh, so moved.
All right, a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? So I have a motion to approve the special event permit application for Riversmith Casting Clinic on May 16th, 2020, and it's second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved.
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
All right, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I just gave you one.
Oh, did you? I thought you were asking. All right, do I have a second then? Sarah's a second. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zander,
Yes.
trustee Francois, trustee Sorensen,
Yes?
trustee Brosius,
Yes.
president Langfeld.
Yes. All right, let's make sure we're offline and close the one door. All right, we're back into open session. Is the door open? You better do that or I'll get yelled at.
And now that we're in session.
I couldn't believe that night.
That was a bad night.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Thank you, Lori. All right, do I have a motion to authorize Administrator Bill Chang authority to negotiate a property for the Brewery Creek flood mitigation
The terminology should.
Project.
What?
I should say ZIG.
Option to purchase?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just continue, just to negotiate, to make well, do we negotiate or do we, to
offer the option.
offer,
Authorize.
authorize Bill Chang to, what do we want to call it?
Someone's gotta help me with the term on here, I'm not good at this.
To authorize the village administrator to put an option,
Place an option on
65.4
acres
of land.
of land adjacent to County Highway P. Is that close enough?
yep, that's good.
All right, you got it.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zander,
Yes.
trustee Francois,
Yes.
trustee Sorensen,
Yes?
trustee Brocius,
Yes.
and President Langfeld.
Yes. All right, the second motion?
So is this 15 acres?
Yeah, this is a 15,
Okay.
but it's not option anymore.
No, it's an agreement.
With the Ziegler.
No?
Oh, with
Xander.
the Xander.
Oh, did we-
So it would be, to authorize the village administrator to seek an agreement for, well, since we named it the Xander property, to dedicate 15 acres to the village as part of the creek crossing subdivision.
That's the motion.
All right,
do that.
do I have a second? I'll second it then.
No, he seconded.
Oh, he did, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee, Xander,
Yes.
trustee Francois,
Yes.
trustee Sorensen,
Yes?
trustee Brocius,
Yes.
and President Langfeld.
Yes.
All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I should let you do that. It's
Well,
last meeting.
Okay.
I was gonna do that.
I have a motion-
Very
I have a-
last motion.
That was our last thing, right?
Yep. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Who's on this motion?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Well, there was a little bit, I didn't know if you guys were gonna swap or not, that you wanted to change the motions from one to the other.
I would let Lee have it.
Well-
Using WebEx.
Well, thanks, for coming tonight.
www.webex.com.